served the colony of southern Rhodesia for 90 glorious years, from 1890 to 1980. Its appropriate motto being Pro Regi, Pro Legi, Pro Patria, for king, for law, for country. The paramilitary BSAP was formed to escort the pioneer corps of Cecil Rhodes' British South Africa Company on its epic trek from the south across the Limpopo River and into the unknown hinterland. Subsequently, many of its members served with distinction with the Allied forces during the two world wars. The Corps also played a major role in 16 years of guerrilla warfare. 2 members of the Corps were awarded the Victoria Cross, Major Randolph Nesbitt and Sergeant Frederick Booth. In keeping with military tradition, trumpet and bugle calls formed an important part of the daily routine of the BSAP, particularly in the context of life in the Salisbury Depot. Deputy Commissioner Bill Crabtree introduces these various calls.
Historically, it is of interest to note that on occasions when a number of regiments were bivouacked together on manoeuvres or in times of war, to ensure troops recognized their own regimental calls, a few distinctive notes would precede each call. Those sounded by the BSAP trumpeters will be recognized as the opening bars of the regimental march, Kamakai. In the BSAP depot, the first call sounded each morning was at 0520. Trumpeters would muster under the command of the trumpet major. They would then march from the guard room to the Blatherwick Memorial, a stone obelisk erected in memory of an early and outstanding regimental sergeant major, Jimmy Blatherwick. There, facing across the green square towards a regimental mess, they would sound the early morning call, Reveille. Shortly after this, the call orderly sergeants would be sounded, and the orderly sergeant would report to the guard room to attend to early morning routine. After a short interval, orderly corporals were sounded, and the orderly corporal would then report to the guard room for the day's orders. These included calling the roll at the first parade. At 0545, recruits will be reminded of the need to hurry with the call, warning for parade. Five minutes before parade, the trumpeter would sound quarter call to warn recruits to prepare themselves on the parade ground in their squad formations. The roll was then called. At 0600, and thereafter before each parade of the day, the recruits under training would form up on the parade ground. The call, fall in, will be sounded, followed by the commands of the parade commander, in this instance, former Chief Drill Instructor, Chief Inspector Taki McIntosh.
Marker, stay! Get on! Head! Hop! 50! Left, right, left, right, left! Open order! Cut! Right! Face! Marker, full squad, move forward slightly. Carry on. Stand still. Front rank, steady. Right marker, centre rank, move back. Stand still. Carry on, centre rank. Stand still. Centre rank, steady. Right marker, rear rank, move back. Stand still. Carry on, rear rank. Marker, 5 squad, move forward. Stand still. Rear rank, steady. Face steady. Guys! Start! Carry on, instructors!
At 06:45, and after every subsequent training period, the bugle call "Dismiss" or "No Parade" will be sounded. The ill and injured were paraded to attend the camp hospital with the call "Sick," but malingerers and those suffering from the effects of a night on the town could expect little sympathy. At 07:45 came the first warning for breakfast, men's meal. Come to the cookhouse door, boys, come to the cookhouse door. Whenever there was a second sitting for breakfast, men's meal, second call will be sounded. At 0800, on the call orders, instructors would report to the depot office, there to be assigned orders for the day. At 0900, the trumpet major, in full dress, would again muster his trumpeters. All recruits will be on parade. Those attending equitation instruction will be marched down to the whitewashed picket lines, situated in idyllic surrounds beneath shady avenues of jacaranda trees, there to attend to the welfare and grooming of their mounts. The massed trumpeters would sound the call "Sables," followed by the commands of the chief equitation instructor, in this instance, Chief Inspector Smudge Smith.
Separate! Fall in! Separate! Right turn! Turn the stables! Quick march! Separate! Halt! Barnfield, Marshall, Stevens, to the officers' lines! Break! Remainder stable parade! To 1 and 2 stables, break! Number 1 squad, prepare to mount. Mount. Advance in single file from the right. Walk march. Leading file. Left turn. Lead towards the riding school. Number 1 squad. Cross your stirrups. Squad. Here up. Balance. Heels down. Toes up. Distance of 4 paces between horses. Marshal, keep your ruddy horse back. Rider, walk. Ride, take your stirrups. To the parade square, walk march. To the hole, on the left, form ride. Even others, walk march. Even others, halt! Ride, grip your stirrups, quickest off the best, dismount!
During the day, a variety of calls relating to the care and control of the horses would be heard echoing around the camp. These included boot and saddle, followed by the call feed. Then, hey up, litter down. Rations. And finally, forage. On the sounds of watering order, all horses in numbers 1 and 2 stables, the officers' lines and the sick lines, would be watered in strict order, under the supervision of the equitation staff and the orderly farrier. At 10:30, the day's mail having been delivered to the depot office, the men will be reminded to collect their letters by the sounding of post call. Should the pioneers, the camp maintenance personnel, be required, they will be summoned by the call pioneers. The regimental band was part of the everyday life in the depot. It was used for ceremonial parades, retreat ceremonies and concerts. As part of the training, the band would often be seen and heard marching through the depot. The call band will precede the regimental march of the BSAP Kamakai. On occasions, to maintain a state of readiness, the call fire alarm will be sounded. In an emergency necessitating the turnout of armed forces, the call alarm will be sounded. In the event of a reviewing officer entering the depot for any ceremonial parade, a quarter guard formed up outside the guardroom will present arms, whilst the trumpeter sounded the salute.
Turn out the guard! Quarter guard! Quarter guard! Turn! Shoulder! Downs! Quarter guard! Present! Out! Quarter guard, shoulder, arms. Quarter guard, forward.
Traditionally, the BSAP provided all mounted escorts for visiting royalty, governors-general and governors, when the cavalcade, after leaving Government House in North Avenue, would sweep through the jacaranda-lined streets of Salisbury. In earlier days, the escorts being mounted infantry carried rifles. Later, lancers flying the pennants in the regimental colours of blue and old gold were introduced. The escort, drawn up outside the guardroom, having been inspected by the reviewing officer, will move away under the command of an officer, in this instance, Chief Superintendent Steve Stevens.
Escort! Stand at ease! Escort! Stand to your horses! Prepare the band! Band! Even numbers dress up. Walk, march. Carry, lance. Files right. Walk, march.
At 16:30, those involved in fatigue duties would be assembled by the bugle call fatigues. Followed, when appropriate, by the call double. Come all you defaulters and listen to me and answer your name for CB. This was a time when all those men whose turnout during the day had not been up to scratch were required to parade behind the guard in front of the guardroom. Many an unfortunate recruit, guilty of saddlery neglect, would find himself parading there complete with saddle horse. At 1700, the recruits on guard duty and stable picket and those on defaulter parade would assemble outside the guardroom for the evening parade. The call, parade for guard, will be sounded, followed by the call, parade for picket. Each evening at 1700, the call retreat could be heard, during which the flags would be slowly lowered. The retreat has its origin in the early days of the standing army in Britain, when barracks were almost unknown and soldiers were, for the most part, quartered in alehouses and taverns. At sunset each day, drummers would parade through the town, beating a tattoo as a call to the men to stand in the doorway of their accommodation and be counted. At the same time, at regimental headquarters, a colour party would haul down the flag. An appropriate finale to regimental occasions of note will be the customary mounting of the guard by the BSAP support unit during a ceremonial retreat performed by the band and followed by the evening hymn, "Abide with me, fast falls the eventide." The call, "Officers dressed for dinner," was sounded at 18:30. "Come, officers dressed for dinner. Come, officers dressed for dinner." Then the sergeant's dinner call. At 1900, the trumpeter sounded "Officers' dinner." Officers' wives get pudding and pies. Soldiers' wives get skilly. Officers residing in Salisbury were required to dine in once a month, when postprandial refreshments will be taken on the palm-fringed lawns outside the mess, all the while to be entertained by a programme of music played by the regimental band, which here includes an arrangement by Inspector Jeff Jefferson of the march Rhodesians Bowl, written in 1918 by BSAP Bandmaster Charles Warren Day and dedicated to the officers and men of the Rhodesian forces. At 2200, tattoo, or first post, was sounded, the first warning of the close of the day. This was followed 15 minutes later by a second tattoo, or last post as it was more commonly known. final call of the day, lights out. As a fitting conclusion to this tribute to the British South Africa Police, Chief Inspector Dennis Marshall now reads a moving poem from the pen of former Assistant Commissioner David Blacker.
Our numbers dwindle now and fade. Will history prove a mark we made? I doubt we'll merit but a line, just memories which are yours and mine. But in our hearts we thought it right to make a place for black and white. Our cause thought just, our spirit strong. O history, will you prove us wrong? Let men deride and have no care. We can with pride state, I was there.